It's clear we still sin. So the idea that all sin was wiped away on the cross is not true. The pathway for sin to be wiped away is true. Absolutely. And the empowerment of that, of course, comes from baptism, right? And then living the life in the church. So I think you're spot on. That is the understanding that they don't have, because they label that as works. And the reason why is because of, what is it, 500 and some years now of the Protestant Reformation, and this kind of toxic idea that somehow you can separate faith and works, which means they try to get rid of the gospel, the Epistle of James. They didn't succeed, right? I mean, Epistle of James, if you want to do a proof texting, there it is. Faith without works is dead, right? Sin for them is an affront to God. It's offensive to God that we sin. And that offense there has to be satisfaction for that offense. Now, all that satisfaction occurred for them on the cross. But God is offended by sin. I would ask you, when your 3-year-old, maybe your 1.5-year-old does it too, but when your 3-year-old is really, really, disobedient and throws a fit and etc., are you offended with him?
No.
No. Maybe as a human being, you might be upset. You might be
I'm a little angry, maybe. Yeah,
angry. But has your demeanor towards him changed?
No, I still love him.
Of course, you're still his father, and you still love him. Now, you have to discipline him. Maybe as a human being, you're impatient or whatever. But your demeanor does not change. You're his father. You love him no matter what, right? That's the same with God. The idea that sin is offensive to God is crazy. What sin does is it kills. Wages of sin is death, right? So is it a sin to drink a liter of vodka every day?
I would say so.
Yes. Okay. What does it do to you? It kills you.
It destroys you.
You get cirrhosis of the liver, right? And you die. So it's a toxic thing to drink large amounts of alcohol every day, right? It is a sin. I mean, the scripture says don't get drunk with wine for its dissipation, but it hurts you both physically and if anybody doesn't know an alcoholic, the greatest damage to an alcoholic is not his liver. It is his relationships, right? And it's his way of thinking, and he becomes a person who's just always making excuses for himself, very narcissistic, et cetera, right? So, yeah, it's sin to drink a lot of alcohol, but it's detrimental to you to do that. It's a sin to think bad thoughts about people because it makes you incapable of having really intimate communication with God. So all of our sin is damaging us, right? That's like the parable of the Good Samaritan. So the person on the road, he gets, beat up by robbers and they slash him and he's bleeding on the road. He's going to die. That's sin coming out of him, right? And the Good Samaritan comes, the only one who can take care of him. The other ones can't take care of him because they can't do anything. And so what does he do? He binds the wound. What's that mean? So now he's no longer sinning, right? And of course, he has to also treat the wound with oil and wine and then bring him to the church. And then the church is responsible for taking care of him until the end. So sin is killing us. We're not judged for our sin as much as we die because of our sin. Totally different.
The other thing I noticed, Father, is that in their interpretation, I sense a lot of pride in it, because you have to be very prideful to think that you can interpret a book as holy and as divine and as dense as the Bible, and that you can come up with your own interpretations. And on that note, also, I've noticed that for me, what I've realized in becoming an Orthodox Christian is that I'm a horrible sinner. I am helpless, and I'm a terrible person, and I need to go to church in order to better myself, because I can't do it on my own. I just can't. I just cannot do it. If I were to pray here at home, I know the difference between praying at home and praying at an Orthodox church, and it's not the same. It just doesn't compare. I need that for my own salvation. I don't get that from the Protestants, and I'm curious if you have an answer why.
Rephrase the question. because I just had a
Yeah. So
brain glitch.
why do you think that there's an aspect of pride in
Okay,
Protestantism?
all right,
And
all right.
why do you think that's the case?
Well, I think individual Protestants can be more humble than anybody that's an Orthodox Christian. So on an individual basis, I think people can be humble. The religion is proud because but it's been said to them over and over again. And if you repeat something to somebody over and over again, they start to believe it, right? We can see that in a society, you know, when those that want the whole mass to believe something, all of a sudden it's on every news channel, right? And people start to believe it. So if you say something to somebody over and over again, only the very strong can avoid it. So I don't know if I would say your average Protestant isn't individually a proud person, but they've been told a message and they only know that narrative. And so they have confirmational bias. Everybody around them is saying that. And then they might see also, to be perfectly frank, I've been dinged for this, but it's true. You go to Greece, Greece is full of holy things and a lot of unholy people.
Mm.
Greece is very secular. The government's absolutely secular and even atheistic. And your average Greek is not a churchgoer. I looked up statistics. I think it's like 6% are going to church. I mean, crazy, you know? And so, and of those people going to church, not everybody is particularly pious. So if you look at Greek society, yes, there's beauty there, absolute beauty there. But there's also a lot of decadence. They have just as much Rainbow Coalition stuff as anybody else and all the rest, right? So sin, they're just, God help us. God help us. We have to struggle against our own personal sins and not be judging whether another person's proud or not. But if you read the Bible and you're told you can understand the Bible, well, that's cognitive dissonance. You can't do it. It's clear. I mean, it's absolutely clear that the Bible is too complex. And then you believe in a Bible that was created. I brought this question up to Sarah, and she couldn't answer it. She just ignored it basically, or she gave an answer that was really, really weird. That the whole canon of Scripture was established during the apostles, which is just historically false, right? But she's been told that, and she just believes that. You know the Bible from the church, because the church wrote the Bible, right? It didn't just appear, right? It just, there was a process, and people were Christians and believed holy things and deep spiritual things, and they didn't even have any of the New Testament with them at all, because, maybe they had a fragment of a letter here and there or whatever. It took until the 4th century for the canon of Scripture to be established. So their dependence on the Bible is always going to be their downfall. That's all they got. Nothing else. And of course, you're going to make mistakes with the Bible. The church did. Look at what happened. I wouldn't say the church did. People in the church did. And, things about, like Arius said, from the morning star, from the womb before the morning star have I begotten thee, right? That's the idea that Jesus Christ was born of his Father, that his Father created him as a son, and then he participated in creation. So a created being participated in creation.
Mm.
That's weird, right?
Yep.
And but Arius believed it, and he used Scripture, right? And that was wrong. And eventually, well, that got stamped out. Except for the Jehovah's Witnesses. The Mormons are a kind of Arian. They're even weirder than that. And they use Scripture to justify it. It's what the church has practiced. Do we have a priesthood? Yeah, we did from the beginning in the New Testament. Do we have a Eucharist? Yes, from the beginning of the New Testament. Why can we say now after 1,500 years, I've decided it's symbolic. Yeah, but for 1,500 years, nobody believed that. But all of a sudden, my interpretation is valid.